All right. The Australian Open third round is set. And even though he lost, the name that everyone is still talking about at the Australian Open is Joao Fonseca, the absolute superstar 18-year-old who has made his name well known at this tournament, taking out Rublev, losing in 5 sets to Sonego, but that doesn't really matter. In this video, I'm going to explain my top 4 reasons on why he is and will continue to be an absolute superstar in this sport. People have been comparing his rise to Alcaraz, to the other players. We're going to see if that's true. What is his ranking going to be at the end of the year? Some people are saying like top 10. Let's break it down. Here's my reasons. We're going to break down all the other results and matches in round 3. Daniil Medvedev just lost to Lerner Tien. He's out of the tournament. Let's take a look at all of it because that's what we do here on The Slice, presented by Betway. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the show. If my voice sounds a little off, if I look tired, that's because I am. And the voice is off because it's physical damage when you're in North America watching the Australian Open every night. But it's what we do it because we love it. And we love seeing a guy like Joao Fonseca make his entrance. And obviously, if you've been following the sport, you know who this kid is already. Back in December, when he won the ATP Next Gen Finals, coming into that tournament, I picked him to win the tournament. I said, he's one of those guys who's clearly been earmarked as one of the next superstars in tennis, like for over a year now. But he, his ranking, he was the 8th seed at that tournament. He came in, won it, made me look good in there. But really, since then, winning that tournament put him in, who are the other 18-year-olds who have won the ATP Next Gen Finals? Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner. Okay, so maybe he's in that category. Now he's come out. He's won the Challenger coming into the Australian Open. He won 3 matches to qualify for the Australian Open, and then he beat Andrei Rublev in round 1. And I think that Andrei Rublev win was where it was on a big court. It had everyone talking, and the way he did it was the main thing that made people go, wow, there's a new kid on the block. And that's true. There's a new kid on the block. Joao Fonseca. Here's my 4 reasons why he's a superstar. And I think they're all pretty obvious to see. Number 1, the forehand. His forehand is already world-class, already all-time. All the best players in recent memory in tennis have unbelievable forehands. Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Novak Djokovic, Rafa Nadal, Roger Federer. They all have the touch of death on their forehand that at any point in a match, they can use that shot to control the match, to get back in a match, to end a match. And Fonseca's forehand is amazing. It's got just fairly simple mechanics, and he just puts it beside his body, drops it, and gets it through his body with incredible power and stability for an 18-year-old. The forehand is key. You can't be, in my opinion, an absolute number 1 top tier prospect and guy who's going to go win majors without an incredible forehand anymore. And he has that. And during the Rublev match, we all saw the power that was coming back towards Rublev, who has an amazing forehand himself. The power was palpable from the way that he was pushing Rublev around the court, the way he was able to end points, cross court, down the line from anywhere. Pretty amazing as an 18-year-old. So the forehand is, the forehand pays the bills. It brings in the big bucks. It wins the matches. It wins the majors. He's got an incredible forehand. And yeah, I think that's going to take him to a lot of high places. Second reason he's a superstar is the look. We're going to talk more about the game in general, but the look. He's got the look. He's a good-looking kid. He's tall. He's handsome. He's, he's just got kind of like an aura about him. The kids say that you're like, oh, everyone's watching this kid. He knows it. He's pumped up. He looks good out there on the court. Sponsors want to be around him. Agents want to be his agent. I've heard that he doesn't have an agent right now. I've heard people are they're all vying for that contract, trying to sign him as their client. But he's just got superstar written all over him, just by the way, the swagger he kind of walks on the court with. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is the performer. He's a performer. He's a showman, and people love that. Similar to Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz is always getting the crowd pumped up. Joao Fonseca, we saw yesterday in the Sonego match. He does the same thing. He's Brazilian, and that's a huge part of it, I think, because the Brazilian crowd and the Brazilian fan base are super patriotic, super loud and proud. You're going to be seeing yellow shirts in tennis stadiums around the world for the next 15 years following this kid. Another Brazilian tennis player, Guga Kuerten, that is the previous most Gustavo Kuerten, the most well-known Brazilian tennis player, won the French Open 3 times. The followings that you can get as a Brazilian tennis player are amazing, and he already has that. And yeah, that goes along with his look and the way he performs, the way he pumps up the crowd, and people love that. People love a show, even if you're not a hardcore tennis follower and you see a guy getting himself pumped up like that, you're like, yeah, that guy's believes in himself. I love that. I'll get behind him. And lastly is the body. He's got an amazing physique for an 18-year-old. To me, he looks like the most physically mature 18-year-old I've seen. Alcaraz was right there, but he's a little bit smaller. And at this time, Alcaraz was really getting jacked and becoming super physically. He's a freak of nature. He's a bit more of a freak of nature, to be honest, than Joao Fonseca is physically. But Fonseca says listed at 6'1". To me, he looks taller than that. He's got super long legs, and he's very well proportioned throughout his body. He's very strong. His legs look strong. His chest is big for an 18-year-old. He just looks like he doesn't have to work super hard to generate the power because he's got a great physique. He looks way more physically mature at 18 than Sinner did, for example. Kind of looks more physically mature still, but Sinner's growing into his body for sure. But anyways, he's got the body to be a top tier player and a superstar. And those are the main reasons. But yeah, the forehand goes along with a lot of other aspects of his game. He's got the forehand, he's got the backhand. It's a simple motion. I've said in the past that it looks kind of like Jack Draper's, but it's probably a little bit cleaner and less stiff. But yeah, he can crack that from the baseline, down the line, cross court. He puts his whole left shoulder, whole body into it. He's got an amazing backhand. He can move really well. He's not super fast at this point. I think that'll get better as he gets older. But he moves very intuitively, gets quick. He's quick around the court. You don't have to be explosive to be quick, although, he's a good athlete, obviously. And his serve's good. It's pretty hard. He had a bigger first serve than Sonego last night. So he's got all the pieces, but the main pokey point is the forehand that is going to pay the bills. Okay, so let's compare him to Carlos Alcaraz. People are saying crazy things. Brad Gilbert said he's going to, he was thinking top 25 by the end of the year, but now year-end championships, which means top 8. So to be clear, I do not think that, and I'd be willing to take a bet on that way, that Joao Fonseca will be top 10 by the end of the year. I don't think he'll be top 15, really. Our friend Gil Gross just posted about what the other guys, I don't know if I still have it up. There we go. What the other top players have ended their first full year on tour would be at. Alcaraz in 2021, 32. Sinner in 2020, 37. Djokovic 16 and 2006. Nadal 51. Federer 29. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna be top 10, but he can do a lot of damage this year. But to say that he's going to be, he's the new Carlos Alcaraz, I think is pretty intense. I can see why you say I think he's going to be at the level of those guys fairly soon. But at this stage of their career, Fonseca and Alcaraz are actually pretty similar. I think Alcaraz had won more challengers at this stage. 18 turning 19. Fonseca is going to turn 19 in August. Halfway through Carlos Alcaraz's 18th year, that is when he became an absolute menace. He won Miami at 18. He won Barcelona at 18. He won Rio, I believe, at 18. Before that, and then he won Madrid at 18, beating Nadal, Djokovic, and Zverev. and then he turned 19, won the US Open, became world number 1, finished the year as number 1. So that's an insane trajectory for anyone to expect Joao Fonseca to be on, and I don't expect him to be on that. Carlos Alcaraz is a freak of nature, youngest world number 1 ever, youngest year-end number 1 ever. So to hold Fonseca to that standard would be insane, and I don't expect him to do that this year. But the aura will continue, and I expect him to rise up the rankings big time. I expect him to be definitely top 50 by the end of the year, probably higher than that. And yeah, he's going to be one of the big guys in tennis going forward for sure. He's got all the aspects of a superstar, and to me, you could feel it even walking into that Sonego match on like court 15, 16 at the Australian Open. It was packed. People were buzzing. You could hear it in the crowd. So Joao Fonseca is a superstar. Those are some of the reasons why. And yeah, if you haven't heard of him now, I don't know what you obviously haven't been watching the Australian Open, but he is out. Sonego wins. Let's take a look at some of the other big results from yesterday and round 2 at the Australian Open. Thanks for being here. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. We appreciate your support. Okay, yesterday, Swiatek wins 6-0, 6-2 in an hour. Demon Hour, straight set win in just under 2 hours. Jannik Sinner drops a set to Skulkate, but then goes 6-4, 6-1, 6-3 in under 3 hours. So that's good for him. Paulini is through. Navarro's through. Taylor Fritz is through. Madison Keys is through. Lerner Tien is through. Look at Margaret Court Arena and the Americans. 4 matches, 4 American wins. The big one, obviously, being Lerner Tien beating Daniil Medvedev in almost 5 hours. I just watched that match, literally just ended before I clicked record, and Daniil Medvedev served for it in the 5th set. I will say that. He broke at 4-all and served for it at 5-4 and was, or no, sorry, he broke at 5-all, served for it at 6-5 and wasn't able to close it out. So that is a disappointing result for Daniil Medvedev, losing the second round at one of his better tournaments, the Australian Open. So that is not a great result for him. I don't know why he had such a slow start, in both matches, 5-set matches, 2 of them to start the tournament. I'm not sure why he had that. I was hoping for more from him. So that's going to be an update to our JP and I's power rankings going to the Australian Open. I think I had him in my top 5. I don't know if he did. So that's 1 on the board for JP. That's 1 on the board for JP. John Cain Arena, Hubert Urkacz loses in an hour and 51 minutes to Miomir Kecmanovic. Wow. Urkacz has Ivan Lendl and Dominic Thiem's old coach. I can see his face. I can't think of his name right now, but that's a bad loss for Urkacz. Rybakina through 6-0, 6-3 in an hour and 20 minutes. And then Holger Rune over Matteo Berrettini in 3.5 hours in what I believe was a great match. 4 sets. Holger Rune pulls it through. He's going to want to get to the 4th round to play Sinner because he needs some good results as well. So that's a good result for Holger Rune. Some more here, and then we won't go through all of them, but Emma Raducanu beats Anisimova 6-3, 6-7-5. Shelton through Carreño Busta. Marozsan beats Tiafoe. So Tiafoe out. A number of big C's are falling on the men's side. Wow. Collins through. And then we go Sonego versus beats Fonseca, the qualifier. Jabeur through Osario. So she's into the 3rd round. Lorenzo Musetti beat Denis Shapovalov. Canadians, if you're watching, that was actually a good match from Shapovalov for 2 sets. And the tough thing for him was he had a bit of a mental, I would say, wire crossing in the first point of the first tiebreaker. Like he had 7 double faults, I think, up to that point, and he played some really mentally tough tennis to stay alive in that first set. Got it to a tiebreaker, and then lost the first point on his serve and just kind of imploded after that. Got a warning because he kicked a sign on the side of the court, a little bit soft, but probably going to be a warning every time. So not the best mental performance from Shapovalov, maybe, but a encouraging performance from him against Musetti, I would say, who was playing well. And I don't think Denis Shapovalov was actually 100% physically there. He did get the trainer out and was looking not really as fluid as he normally might. Mickelsen's through. He's looking good. Katie Bolter loses. Anyways, those are the big results from yesterday. Daniil Medvedev out. Let's look at the draws. The third round. We've got Sinner versus Marcos Giron. Sinner, I don't think should have any issues with there. Miomir Kecmanovic, who took out Hurkacz, will play Holger Rune in the third round. Mickelson versus Khachanov. That's a great matchup. That'll be a tough one for Khachanov because Mickelson is looking great. Cerundolo versus Demonauer. Cerundolo's going to be fresh for Demonauer because he had a walkover. Only had to play a set versus Diaz Acosta. So Demonauer is going to have a fresh Cerundolo there. So we'll see if he can keep his momentum. Looking pretty good so far. Taylor Fritz, who said he's going to be donating his, I think, first couple rounds or maybe first round of prize money to the LA Wildfires relief, which is great. He'll be playing. Taylor Fritz will be playing Gael Monfils, who came through Giovanni Impelli-Perricard and Daniel Altmaier. So Monfils is looking great. He'll play Taylor Fritz. Shelton to play Musetti. That's a great matchup in round 3. Musetti came through Shapovalov. I will say Khachanov came through Gabriel Diallo. So there is no more Canadians in round 3. If you are Canadian watching this, Felix Auger-Aliassime went down again, unfortunately, at the Australian Open after being 2 sets to love up. He lost to Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, and that was painful. And we'll see that result here shortly. Djokovic took out Faria from a qualifier from Portugal, dropped another set. He'll play Tomas Machak, who just came off a 5-setter versus Opelka. So will he be tired? So it looks like Djokovic might play 2 Czechs in a row in the third and fourth round. Draper came through Kokkinakis in a war. He'll play Vukic, who beat Sebastian Korda. A lot of the top, a lot of seeds dropping on the men's side. Thompson out to Nuno Borges, who will play Carlos Alcaraz. Mensic through Rude, the 6th seed is out. Who will play Davidovich Fokina, who beat our guy Felix Auger-Aliassime in 5 sets. Excuse me. So that was a tough one for Felix. Up 2 sets to love. I believe there was a bathroom break for Davidovich Fokina, and Felix couldn't get his shirt off. And I posted that on Twitter and said after this moment he was never the same. And he wasn't, but I was not able to watch that match. So 6-4 is still a close third set, but that's just how tennis goes. Sometimes it's hard to win. The confidence that you need to build to be winning consistently is momentous, and people don't really understand how big that is or how hard it is to get it back once you've lost it through to injury like Felix and Dennis have. So that's why I will always give them a break. Carballes Bana through to play Tommy Paul. Ugo Humbert versus Feast, 14 seed versus 20 seed Frenchman. That is a great matchup as well. Fernley versus Zverev on the bottom. So great matches in the third rounds. A lot of seeds go down. Let me know your thoughts on that below. Let's look at the women's third round matchups. Clara Towson versus Sabalenka. That's a great matchup. Clara Towson's come off. She won in Auckland. I think I originally said she won in Brisbane, but no, that was Sabalenka who won in Brisbane. So both winners before this tournament, they'll be playing Maria Fretch versus Andreeva, Schneider versus Vekic, Pavlyuchenkova, always get it wrong, to play Siegmund, who took out Qinwen Zhang. So that's another blow to my power rankings, which is insane. Qinwen Zhang, finalist last year, goes out in the second round to Siegmund, just as Medvedev, finalist from last year, went out in the second round as well. Coco Gauff through. She'll play Leylah Fernandez of Canada, 3 seed versus 30th seed. That's a great matchup. Going to be going late tonight. Naomi Osaka beat Muhova in the second round. That's a great win for Osaka. She'll play Bencic, who's back into the third round of a major. Padosa versus Kostyuk. Danilovic took out Samsonova versus Pegula. Rybakina versus Yastremska. Madison Keys versus Danielle Collins. Blockbuster American matchup in Australia. Gotta love it. Haddad Maya versus Kudermetova. Svitolina versus Paolini, the 4th seed. That's big time. Emma Navarro versus Ons Jabeur. That's a big time matchup. Wow. There's a lot of great matchups in the 3rd round. On the women's side, Putintseva versus Kasatkina. Another one. Eva Elise. She's through to Christian to play Christian. And then Emma Raducanu will play Iga Swiatek. Are you kidding me? The matchups in the 3rd round on the women's side are better than the men's. And I think more seeds have fallen on the men's side than the women. So that's a changing of the trend. But yeah, 3rd round is going to be great. We got some great matchups, and the tournament starts to get more intense. Some big upsets in the round 2. Medvedev out. Qinwen Zheng out. Let me know your thoughts on all that below, and let me know your thoughts on the kid they call Wow, Joao Fonseca. Let me know your thoughts on him. He's a superstar in my mind already. I don't know how high he's going to be. Is he going to win majors? I believe so. Is he going to be world number one in the world? He could be. But the problem is for him, he's going to have to compete with Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner, Holger Rune, all the other guys who are just a little bit older than him. But he is 18. Carlos Alcaraz is turning 22 this year. Fonseca is turning 19. So he'll have the age advantage on him in a few years. It's going to be interesting. Joao Fonseca's a superstar. That's The Slice. We'll see you next time here on The Slice. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you next time.